The market was loud, full of shouting, strange smells, and flashing lights. Traders from many worlds bargained over weapons, fuel, and slaves. But in the far corner, under a broken metal canopy, stood a small platform with a flickering sign. For sale, she stood on that platform like a statue, thin, silent, and still. Her greenish skin was dusty, and her white hair was tied back in a rough knot. One leg was missing, cut off at the thigh. The other leg kept her balanced, but only just. A long piece of cloth was wrapped around her stump, stained and frayed. Her eyes, big, silver, and tired, stared forward without blinking. No one wanted her. People passed by, some laughing, some not even looking. One alien merchant scoffed. Why is she even up there? Can't even run. Another said, broken girl probably has brain damage too. She heard everything. But she didn't react. Not a word, not a blink. She had stood there for 5 days now. No food, no sleep, no kindness. She had put herself up for sale, not for greed, not for escape, just for one thing, a leg. A simple prosthetic leg. It wasn't a luxury. It wasn't for beauty. She wanted to walk again, to feel the ground with 2 feet, to move without crawling like an animal. But even that dream seemed too big now. In her hand, she held a tiny sign, written by herself on a scrap of metal. It read, "Will work, obey, or clean. Just need a leg, please." No one stopped. Until he did. He came from the shadows of the city walkway. Tall, wearing a dull gray coat with a satchel over his shoulder. His face was human, pale skin, tired eyes, a scar over his jawline. He looked straight at her, then at the sign in her hand. He didn't speak at first. She looked up slowly. Confused, no one had looked at her like this. Not with disgust, not with pity, but with focus. Like she was a person, not a broken machine. He stepped forward. How much for her? He asked the old auctioneer beside the platform. The auctioneer raised an eyebrow. For her? She's trash. Useless. You'd be better off buying a cleaning drone. I asked the price, the human said calmly. The auctioneer scratched his head. 1 credit, if you really want her. The human took a coin out of his coat and placed it on the table. Then he walked to the platform and held out his hand. She didn't move. She didn't understand. What do you want me to do? She whispered, her voice dry from days without water. Come down, he said. You're not going to take me to the mines? No, you're not. Going to take my organs? No. Then ... why? She asked. He didn't answer. Just looked at her, waiting. She stepped forward carefully. The metal beneath her feet felt cold. Her balance was weak. She slipped. But before she hit the ground, he caught her gently. Arms steady, grip strong. For the first time in years, someone had caught her. Not to hurt, not to drag. But to help? He didn't ask her name. He didn't ask her history. He just carried her through the crowd, through the market, and into a side street that smelled of oil and rust. She was too tired to speak. Her body shook with weakness, but her heart felt ... warm, a strange feeling, dangerous one. They stopped in front of a small door in a back alley. It opened with a hiss. Inside was a tiny room filled with tools, wires, and broken parts. A table, a cot, and a machine that hummed quietly in the corner. He set her down on the cot and handed her a bottle of water. Drink, he said. She drank like someone starved. He watched, not saying a word. After a moment, she looked up. Why are you doing this? He knelt down in front of her and gently touched the cloth over her stump. We'll get this cleaned. Then I'll make you a leg. Her eyes widened. You're an engineer. Gave a small smile. Something like that. She didn't know how to respond. Her chest tightened. Her throat burned. The tears came before she could stop them. I thought I was broken, she whispered. He stood and turned away. You're not, he said quietly. You're just waiting to be rebuilt. She woke up expecting chains. The cot was soft, too soft. It wasn't cold metal or a cage. The air didn't stink of grease or sweat. It smelled clean, like old leather and hot tea. She blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. Her hands ran across the blanket. It was real. Warm. She sat up fast, heart racing. Her stump ached, but it was bandaged, cleaned, and stitched. She touched the cloth slowly, confused. Someone had taken care of her. Carefully, she scanned the room. Wires, tools, shelves of machine parts, a small glowing stove in the corner. The man, the human, sat at a table, working silently under a lamp. He hadn't chained her. Locked the door. She looked toward it. Open, no guards. No alarms, no callers. She could escape, but her one leg touched the floor. She winced. Still useless. She forced herself to stand, trembling, unbalanced. She held onto the wall and limped one painful step, then another. Her hands reached the edge of a cabinet. She gripped it tight. Just a few more steps. She could run, or crawl. She didn't understand him. Why hadn't he taken advantage of her? She made it to the doorframe, breathing hard. The hallway beyond was quiet, empty. A single strip of dim, yellow light ran along the ceiling. She didn't stop. One step. One fall. She landed hard, her arms barely catching her. That's when she heard it. Boots behind her, she turned her head in fear. The human stood there. No anger, no threats, just a cup in his hand. "Tea's ready," he said softly. She stared at him, unsure if this was a trick or mockery. "You're not stopping me?" she asked, her voice tight. He shrugged. "Want to go? I won't stop you." "Then why help me?" He looked at her for a moment, then crouched beside her. "Because when I needed help, someone gave it to me too." She didn't know what to say. He stood and held out his hand. She hesitated, then took it. He helped her back to the cot without a word. The warmth of his hand stayed in her skin. He poured the tea into a metal cup and placed it beside her. "Your body's weak. You haven't eaten properly in weeks," he said. "You'll need strength before we begin." "Begin what? Building your leg?" She blinked. "You weren't joking? No? Why?" she asked again. "Why would a human waste his time on me?" He leaned against the table and folded his arms. "You ever fix a machine?" Nodded slowly. "Long ago. Back home. Engines sometimes comes." "Ever fix something that was called junk by others?" She paused, then nodded again. He pointed to a half-built droid on the table. That one was found in a trash heap. Everyone said it was beyond repair. "Look at it now." She followed his finger. The droid's shell gleamed. One eye flickered. It was nearly finished. "I don't believe in junk," he said. "Only what others give up on." She looked down at her hands. Thin, scarred, trembling, but still hers. Still useful. He turned back to his workbench. "You'll help me rebuild. That's the deal." Her eyes widened. "You're not a slave. You're a mechanic." She didn't respond. She couldn't. Her throat locked. "You want to leave after that? Fine," he added. "But while you're here, you're part of the crew." She tried to speak, but her voice cracked, so she nodded, once, slowly. He picked up a small metal plate, curved and smooth, and brought it to her. "Here," he said. "This will be the first part of your leg." She took it in her hands. It was light, strong, clean, not trash, not junk. She held it tight, as if it might disappear, for the first time in years. Someone had bought her, not to own her, not to use her, but to fix her. Chief looked up at him again. "Your name?" she asked quietly. He glanced at her. "Call me Rook, and mine," she whispered. He smiled gently. "That's for you to decide." The workshop became her world. Each day, she woke up to the sound of tools, soft music from an old speaker, and the low hum of machines. Rook never raised his voice, spoke little, worked much, and always gave her something to do. It was simple, passing tools, organizing wires, then it became repairs, welding, even code checks. She didn't realize how much her hands remembered. Machines didn't mock her. They didn't care about missing limbs or old scars. They responded to patience, focus, and calm. And in that, She found something close to peace. But Rook, he was still a mystery. He lived in the broken part of the city where few dared to go. No security drones, no patrols, just cracked roads and old buildings full of rust. Yet he chose to stay every day. He worked from morning till night, then disappeared after dark. No explanations. She never asked, until curiosity began to burn inside her. One evening, he didn't return on time. Hours passed. She sat by the door, prosthetic leg half-built, tools beside her. The street outside was quiet, except for wind. And dust. She should have stayed inside. But something told her this man who had saved her might be in danger. She stepped out. The night was cold. Her balance wasn't perfect, but she could walk with a crutch. She followed the path Rook often took, past the ruined shuttle pads, across the old train line, toward the edge of the old sector. No lights, just the moon, pale and cracked, watching from above. And then she saw him. He knelt in front of a small grave, a simple metal slab stuck in the ground, with a name scratched by hand. No flowers, no offerings. Just silence. She stayed, hidden behind a wall of broken concrete, watching. He whispered something, voice low, face tight. His hand rested on the top of the slab. She strained to read the writing on it. To the only one I couldn't save. Beside the grave, a faded photo sat in a cracked plastic frame. A girl, human, maybe 17, smiling wide. One of her legs was missing, just like hers. The truth hit her like ice. Rook hadn't helped her because she was special. He had helped her because he had once failed someone else. She stepped forward without thinking. Her foot hit a small metal can, which clinked loudly. Rook turned sharply. For a moment, neither spoke. "I'm sorry," she said, voice shaking. "I didn't mean to follow you." He stood up slowly. "Out. You shouldn't be out here. It's not safe." I needed to know why. He didn't answer. She looked at the grave again. "Was she your daughter?" He shook his head. "No, but she was like one. I promised her a new leg. I promised I'd protect her." He paused. "I was too." Late silence stretched between them. "Her name was Calais," he said, voice low. "We were part of a rebel crew. She lost her leg during a raid. I was the engineer. She waited for me to fix it. I failed." She stepped closer. "You didn't fail me." He looked at her, really looked at her. His eyes were tired, full of pain, buried deep. "I didn't save you out of guilt," he said. "I saved you because I knew no one else would. I couldn't let that happen again." Her throat tightened, in that quiet place, surrounded by ruins and ghosts of the past. She understood something. Rook wasn't just building her leg. He was building a second chance for both of them. "I'm not her," she said gently. "No, but I'll walk again," she whispered. "And I won't waste it." He nodded once, firm. "Then let's finish what we started." They walked back together, slow, steady, side by side. And for the first time, the city didn't feel so broken. Asterisk, she stood. For the first time in years, she stood with two legs. The prosthetic wasn't fancy. It wasn't shiny or fast, but it was hers, custom-made by Rook's hands, fitted with care, shaped to match her steps. It hummed softly when she walked, powered by an old energy cell salvaged from a cleaning bot. But it worked. She walked from one wall to the other, slow at first, then faster. Her hands didn't need to grab furniture anymore. Her body remembered how it felt to be whole. Rook watched from his chair. Arms crossed, a small smile on his lips. "You'll need to practice balance," he said. "I'll learn," she replied, steadying herself. "You might fall. Then I'll get back up." Rook nodded. "Good." The next morning, she rose early and found Rook already at work in the junkyard behind the shop. Rows of old machines, broken ships, and burnt-out drones waited like silent statues. He was pulling apart a rusty loader bot, oil on his hands, sweat on his brow. She walked up behind him. "What can I fix?" she asked. He turned, surprised. "You sure?" She nodded. I'm not a guest. I'm not weak anymore. He gave her a half smile. All right, start with that comes panel. I need it. Rewired. She took the toolkit and crouched near a pile of junk. The panel was half melted, wires twisted like a nest. She squinted, remembering her old training. Her hands moved slow but steady, red to blue, yellow to black. She stripped a wire, soldered a joint, tested a current, and the panel blinked. She laughed softly, not used to the sound. Rook turned at the noise. It works, she said. He walked over, checked the signal, then looked at her. You're faster than I expected. My mind works better when I'm standing. From that day on, she became more than a project. She became a partner. They fixed hover bikes. They repaired old scanners. They rebuilt a drone with missing legs and programmed it to follow them like a pet. Rook showed her things, hidden codes, black market tricks, ways to power dead machines without spending a single credit, and she taught him too. How to listen to the sound of a dying engine, how to patch alien fuses with old parts, how to laugh again when something exploded in smoke. She wasn't scared anymore. The girl who once stood under a for sale sign had vanished, but the city hadn't changed. One afternoon, while sorting metal near the gate, she heard voices. You hear about the bounty? A voice whispered beyond the fence. On who? The human engineer. They say he fixed rebel tech. Empire wants him. Her hands froze. She peeked over the wall. 2 patrol officers walked past, armored, armed, scanning everyone they saw. She waited until they were gone, then ran to Rook. They're looking for you, she said. I know. You're in danger. He wiped his hands calmly. Always been in danger? She shook her head. You helped me? Let me help you. He looked at her, really looked at her, not as someone broken, not as someone weak, but as someone who could stand beside him. We need to be careful now, he said. We can be, she replied. He turned to the garage wall and pulled a tarp away, revealing something underneath. A small ship, dusty, scratched, but strong. Eyes widened. That's a flight pod. He nodded. It's almost ready. We might need to leave someday. She stepped closer and laid her hand on the cold metal. Then let's make sure it flies. That night she sat by the window, her new leg resting beside her tools. The stars blinked above the ruined skyline. She remembered the day she stood on that platform waiting for someone to see her. No one had, except him, and now she would. Never be that girl again, not broken, not for sale, not forgotten. The shop was quiet when she woke up. No sound of clanking tools, no humming machines, no smell of hot metal. His coat was missing from its hook. His boots were gone, the garage door wide open. She waited an hour, then 2, then fear began to spread inside her chest like cold smoke. She checked every room. Empty. Even the back lot. She grabbed her toolkit and ran to the nearby checkpoint. The guard shrugged. The market vendors hadn't seen him either. Then she heard it 2 aliens talking in hushed voices outside a food stall. You hear? They caught a human engineer? Last night, was he hiding in the scrap sector? Yeah, Empire agents snatched him, auctioning him off today. Said he had rebel links. She didn't breathe. Her hands started to shake, and she dropped her toolkit. An auction they were selling him, like they sell machines, like they sold her. She ran. Her prosthetic leg whirred with every step. She pushed past crowds, past shops, past beggars yelling for food. Her mind flashed back to that platform, the for sale sign above her head. The way people had laughed, the way she had been nothing. She wouldn't let that happen to him. The auction house stood tall, black glass, guarded by turrets, and guards with cold eyes. Sighed. The crowd murmured. A mix of rich traders and off-world dealers. Some wore gold. Others wore bone armor. Downed, all of them held credit sticks, ready to buy lives. She slipped in through a service door using a badge. She'd stolen long ago. She blended in with the workers, kept her head low. Then she saw him. Rookie was cuffed, standing in the middle of the stage, eyes bruised, lip bleeding. But he was upright, proud, refusing to bend. They called him a traitor. They said he fixed rebel weapons. They called him valuable. Bidding began. The numbers rose fast. 50 credits. 100. 200. She had nothing. Her fingers gripped the edge of the wall. Then she saw the old platform where they held low-value goods, the kind they laughed at, the kind she once stood on. She stepped forward, climbed onto it. A voice near her snapped, "What do you think you're doing?" "I'm for sale," she said loudly. The room paused. All eyes turned. Someone laughed. "You again? Didn't you learn last time?" She stood tall, voice steady. "I'm offering myself in exchange." "For him," whispers spread like fire. A man in a silk cloak called out, "She's broken, not worth a tenth of him." "Oh, she rebuilt ships," someone said. "I've heard stories from the scrapyards. I don't care if she sings, he's the prize." Auctioneer grinned, amused. "Bold move, girl. But this is real business. No games." She didn't blink. "I'm not a game. I'm a mechanic. I can fix anything, engines, weapons, codes. I'm worth something. Let him go. Take me instead." The stage rook shouted, "No." She looked at him. "You gave me back my leg. Let me give you back your life." The room grew tense. The auctioneer leaned closer. "You'd trade your freedom?" "I already gave it up once," she said. "This time, it's my choice." Before he could answer, the lights flickered. A loud crash echoed behind the stage. Smoke, alarms. A figure burst through the side wall, plasma torch in one hand, sparks flying. It was Rook's rebuilt loaderbot. It's the one they'd fixed together. And behind it, Rook, free from his cuffs, face fierce, holding a makeshift shock rod. "Get away from her," he yelled. Guards raised weapons. The crowd scattered. Blasters fired. Sparks flew. Chaos. She jumped off the platform and ran toward him. He met her halfway. "You came for me," he said. "You built my leg. I built your escape." They ran side by side like a team. Asterisk, they didn't stop running. Blaster fire lit the sky behind them, slicing past broken pillars and rusted wrecks. The loaderbot rolled after them, sparks spraying from one damaged wheel, shielding their backs with a stolen riot shield. Rook's arm was bleeding, a burn mark across his shoulder, but he didn't let go of her hand. They turned down a narrow alley, ducked under a collapsing scaffold, and burst through a half-welded gate into the scrap zone. Home, but not safe. Behind them, the auction guards were coming, not just thugs, but bounty hunters, armored mercs, and drones. The Empire had placed a price on Rook's head, high enough to draw the worst kind of people. As they reached the garage, Rook slammed the door shut and jammed the locks. He stumbled, catching himself on the wall. She grabbed his arm and helped him to the bench. "You're hurt," she said, voice tight. "I've been worse," he replied through gritted teeth. She pulled open the emergency kit and started cleaning. The wound, he didn't flinch. Instead, he looked at her like seeing her for the first time. "You stood on the platform," he said. "You offered yourself again. You gave me freedom once," she replied. "I wasn't going to lose you to the same cage." He stared at her, not as someone broken, not as someone he needed to fix, but as someone who had saved him. She moved quickly, grabbing the last parts of the small ship they'd been restoring. The pod half hidden in the shadows of the garage. "Was their only chance now? How close is it to flying?" she asked. 60%, maybe less. Then we finish it. It's right now." Outside, engines roared, hover bikes approaching. Shouts echoed. The auction guards were near. They worked fast. She connected the fuel line. Rook calibrated the core. She welded the dorsal plate. He patched the nav system. Hand-shaking tools. Slipping from sweat, hearts racing. Then came the bang on the main door. "Open up," a voice yelled. "Turn over the fugitive and we won't burn the place down." She didn't answer. Instead, she ran to the center of the garage and climbed on top of the ship. "Listen," she shouted, voice echoing through the walls. Silence, then footsteps closer. "You're not taking him?" she said. "You don't own us. Not anymore." A voice on the other side growled, "You think anyone cares about a half-machine girl?" "I'm not a machine," she said, lifting a plasma wrench. "I'm the one who rebuilt the engines of your future, and I'll burn them before I let you steal it again." Boom! The door buckled. Rook tossed her a fusion cell. "We've got one shot, and we make it count," she replied. As the wall exploded inward, dust and fire filling the air, Rook pulled her behind the ship and hit the ignition. The engines. Wind. Lights flared. The hoverlift engaged, the guards charged in, and the ship rose. A flash grenade rolled across the floor. She grabbed Rook's arm. "Get in." They jumped into the pod, sealing the hatch just as the grenade burst behind them. The world shook. The nav system blinked, red. Then green. The ship launched. Through the hole in the roof, through the smoke. Into the sky, screaming upward like a comet. Below, the guards fired uselessly, watching their prize vanish into the stars. Inside the pod, she held the edge of her seat, heart pounding. They were alive. They were free. Rook leaned back, breathing heavy. "That was reckless." "You taught me well," she smiled. He looked at her, then laughed. The first real laugh she'd heard from him. "You were ready to trade yourself again," he said. "Even after all we've built." She looked out the window at the shrinking city below. "Because you never gave up on me." "Now I know I'm more than what they said. And who are you now?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into her coat and pulled out a small metal plate, the same one from her old for sale sign. But now the words were gone, scrubbed clean, ready to be rewritten. The stars stretched wide before them, beyond the smoke-filled skies of the city. The galaxy opened like a door she'd never thought she'd touch. Through the ship's dusty window, she stared at the light from faraway planets, places with no chains, no auctions, no slave platforms, just space. Just choices. She had never left her homeworld, never been in a ship that wasn't rusted or broken, never felt her heart so full and so free. Beside her, Rook adjusted the stabilizers. The panel sparked, but he tapped it, and the readings calmed. "How's the leg?" he asked. She bent her knee, rotating the prosthetic gently, still working. "Want a better one soon, we'll find parts." She nodded, then turned her eyes to the object in her hands, the old scrap metal sign she once held up when begging to be bought. Back then, it had said, "We'll work, we'll obey. Just need a leg." She'd wiped the words off during their escape. Scrubbed them with oil and steel shavings until nothing remained. "I want to carve something into it," she said. "Go ahead." "I want to carve my name," she whispered. Rook turned to her, blinking slowly. "You never told me your name." She looked up at him. "That's because I never had one, not one I chose." He handed her a tool from the console, a fine-tip burner used for writing labels on engine parts. "Then choose now," he said. She hesitated, hand trembling over the surface of the metal. She thought of who she used to be, the girl who stood for days in silence, waiting for someone to see her. The girl with one leg and no voice. Then she thought of now, flying through stars, engines under her control, her legs strong, her hands skilled. She thought of Rook, not the man who saved her, but the man who saw her. "I want my name to mean something," she said. Rook smiled. "It already does." She carved slowly, letter by letter, until the soft glow of her burner faded. He looked over her shoulder. Kellen, it wasn't from his language. It wasn't from hers. It was something new, her own. She set the metal plate on the console and leaned back. "That's who I am now. Not broken, not property, just me." They flew in silence for a while. The ship creaked from the damage. Some panels blinked, but it held together just like them. They reached a small moon by morning, abandoned, quiet, with tall rock spires and soft blue sand. Rook landed the pod near a cliffside, said they'd rest and plan the next step. But Kaylin, now fully herself, had an idea. They spent 3 days building something new, not a weapon, not a ship, a workshop, small, hidden in the rocks, powered by solar wires and broken drone cores. Inside, they placed workbenches, charging coils, welding masks, and maps of nearby systems. They painted the walls with their hands. No perfect lines, it's just raw shapes and bright color. Kaylin smiled when they were done. "This will be a place for people like us," she said. "Runaways?" Rook asked. "No rebuilders? People who were called useless?" People left behind. People like her. I want to fix more than machines now, she said. I want to fix people too, like you fixed me. Rook chuckled, crossing his arms. You did most of the work, she grinned. Still, let's leave the door open for the next one who comes limping through the dust. He nodded. They'll find us, one way or another. That night, they stood outside under the stars, Kaelin. No longer the girl who once begged for scraps, now walked with strength. Her steps left marks in the blue sand, deep, even full of purpose. She looked up. You think they'll come after us again? She asked. Rook stared at the stars. Maybe. Let them. Her hand touched the burner tool again. This time, she turned to the cliffside. Slowly, she carved 5 simple words into the rock. This place is not for sale.